When life knocks you down, it helps to know someone's in your corner. At Blue Cross, we never stop supporting you with access to the care you need to keep moving forward. Every step,
Good job.
every challenge, it all adds up. For 86 years,
buddy. One more.
we've shown up, stood strong,
Good job.
and had your back. Because at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, your fight is our fight.
Tomorrow. Tomorrow is what we make it. And we're making it happen today. By providing the energy life demands while reducing our environmental impact. We know there's no single path to net zero, and we're committed to putting in the energy to get there. Because when we step up and meet the challenges of today, tomorrow is on.
Distinguished guests, welcome to the 2026 International Women's Day Luncheon, presented by Orsa Credit Union. Please welcome the Vice President of Economic Equity and Inclusion at the Detroit Regional Chamber, Marnita Harris.
All right. I wanted to check my time, make sure it was good morning. Good morning, and welcome to the Detroit Regional Chamber's annual International Women's Day Lunch, presented by Orsa Credit Union. It is my pleasure to welcome each one of you to this celebration. Today, we come together not just to celebrate, but to emphasize the power of mutual support and collaboration. This year's theme, Give to Gain, tells us that we can all give our support to gain advancement for women and girls. Giving serves as an intentional multiplication. When women thrive, we all rise. I like saying that. So strike your Give to Gain pose. So this is the national pose this year. So strike your Give to Gain pose. With cup hands out in front of you, universally, we signify the act of giving and receiving. Throughout history, open palms have been associated with truth, with honesty, and with openness. So I just wanted to, share that with you. I am looking forward to hearing from these wonderful speakers today. We have Christy McDonald, Tiffany Albert, Wafa De Niro, Yvette Hollins, and Mariah Safudin. Mariah Saf. No, it's Maria Safudin. I have a thing making sure to get the names correct. So I am looking forward. Last year, each year I come, I am touched. Even though I am a chamber employee, I just really love hearing from the women. As you enter today's event, you had an opportunity to engage with a variety of wellness hubs designed to promote personal enrichment. Orsa Credit Union's prompt wall lets attendees explore their achievable dreams. Enbridge is sponsoring a station where you can create and take home your own flower bouquet. All of us like flowers, I think. Girl Scouts of Southeast Michigan is selling cookies to fund accessible scouting. Accepted payment methods. So if you have these in your bags, your purses, or your pockets, we have Apple Pay, Zelle, and cash. Entry to the Treasured Moments theme photo booth, so you can get in there and take an International Women's Day and be the baby dolls that we all are. Harmony Club is demonstrating the positive impact of meaningful connections on mental health by presenting the movement, mindfulness, and community. These are themes that are featured in the She Moves Detroit. Pet therapy with adoptable animals from Macomb County Animal Control and Friends of Detroit Animal Care and Control. This is sponsored by Franco. Heart of the City Photography is offering free professional headshots. Take advantage, ladies. Free headshots. And gentlemen, I'm sorry, we love you too, guys. And Visit Detroit is introducing you to many women-owned businesses. Let's clap for her. Okay. When you engage in each hub, you'll receive a stamp on your Connect card that you received when you checked in. If you get, once you have a completed full row on the entire card, or if you fill up the whole card, please return it to check-in because you'll be entered to win a complimentary registration for next year's women's event. So, hey, get a free. I keep putting that free out there, free. If you hadn't had time to visit them all yet, just know that after the program, they'll still be open, so take advantage. Lastly, I want to acknowledge our generous sponsors who made today's event possible. Our presenting sponsor is Orsa Credit Union. Our platinum sponsor is Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Our gold sponsor, Enbridge. Our silver sponsors are Corewell Health, Franco, and Harmony Club. Our bronze sponsor is Visit Detroit, and and our production partner is Creative Day Technologies. We'd ask that you keep the conversation going by doing a at DetroitChamber.com, so IWD at Detroit Chamber, we're fine at DetroitChamber.com, so we can have a social media rolling around of what we're doing here today. Thank you. And so thank you again for joining us in recognizing International Women's Day. All women are essential to supporting our communities and the economy. As we pave the way for a brighter, more inclusive future, each of you are leading the way and are part of that for our next generation and for just the woman sitting next to you. So I appreciate each of you and enjoy the program.
Please welcome the Chief Financial Officer of Orsa Credit Union, Sean Wolbert.
Good morning. In January, we made a bold decision. We changed our name. We became Orsa Credit Union. Now, changing a name might seem simple, but for us, it wasn't a branding exercise. It was a commitment. It was a promise about who we are and who we intend to be. The word Orsa means she-bear. Interestingly, the bear had already lived in our culture for a long time before the rename. Our team used it often to describe how we showed up for our members: protective, resilient, and steady. The bear symbolizes that protection, strength, and care. And that's exactly what Orsa represents: the future we are building and the responsibility we are accepting. But a name only matters if you're willing to live up to it. And that's exactly what we're going to do, especially today here at International Women's Day. The responsibility has become even clearer. International Women's Day is about progress. But as a chief financial officer, I tend to see progress through a particular lens. The CFO lens asks 3 questions. Where's the risk? How do we build resilience? And what creates long-term value? And one of the most under-addressed financial risks impacting women today is economic abuse. At ORSA, we have the privilege of walking alongside our members in both their brightest and their darkest moments. One of the darkest realities disproportionately affecting women is domestic violence and intimate partner abuse. In the United States, 47% of women experience domestic violence and intimate partner violence in their lifetimes. And what many people don't realize is that that violence is often accompanied by financial control. Research shows that up to 99% of survivors of these experiences have economic abuse. Things like restricted access to money, damaged credit, coerced debt, and barriers to employment. These tactics trap survivors financially, delaying their ability to escape unsafe situations. And the impact doesn't end when the violence ends. The economic consequence ripples through the survivors' lives, affecting credit scores, housing stability, employment opportunities, and generational wealth. In fact, the lifetime economic impact of gender-based violence exceeds $3 trillion. $3 trillion. So when we talk about women's financial freedom, we cannot ignore this reality. At ORSA, living up to our name means standing with women in these moments and helping rebuild financial autonomy. And that means more than compassion. It requires tools. Today, our website includes a safe exit button so that survivors can quickly exit and discreetly leave if they need to. Our team receives trauma-informed training so that when someone reaches out for help, they're met with understanding rather than judgment. Over the past 5 years, we have directed more than $160,000 to organizations supporting survivors. We have launched a dedicated survivor loan pilot program designated to restore independence. So far, this program has deployed over $209,000 to 65 survivors with things like transportation, housing stability, rebuilding their financial footings. And that's not just lending. That's capital restoring autonomy. But protection cannot come from a single institution. Real protection requires an ecosystem, and that's why we're expanding our work. In May, we will launch the Choose the Bear Tour, together with our partner, Laura Killingbeck, who's a storyteller and a solo adventurist. We'll be riding across the state of Michigan from Ironwood in the Upper Peninsula to Belle Isle in Detroit. Along the way, we will elevate the voices of survivors and highlight the organizations that support them, because protection isn't a single transaction. It's a network of people, organizations, and communities standing together. And we've taken another step into living up to our name. We recently launched the Choose the Bear Fund. That's within the ORSA Foundation. This fund is laser focused on strengthening Michigan's survivor support ecosystem, and every dollar goes directly to that cause. There are simple ways to participate. If you visit our hub, you can scan our QR code, or if you are a member of ORSA Credit Union, you can have 1 cent from your credit and debit transactions go to this fund. Now, a penny might not sound like a lot, but when small actions are collectively taken, they become powerful. Last year alone, our members donated more than $130,000 through small, everyday acts, just like this. That is the power of community. And by now, you may have picked up on something about us. At ORSA, we care deeply about Michiganders, and we care deeply about women. Our purpose is simple, but it's not small. We exist to create joy and ignite Michiganders' impossible dreams. Sometimes protecting financial freedom means helping someone rebuild after a dark moment or a crisis, and sometimes it means helping someone take a leap towards something extraordinary. And today we're doing both. If you haven't already, stop by the hub area and share your impossible dream. We're always accepting dream submissions, but today we'll be selecting one from this event to make come true. Because when women are financially free, something incredible happens. Joy expands, dreams get bigger, and Michigan gets stronger. And as we say at ORSA, huzzah!
Please enjoy this healthy lunch, sponsored by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan.
The program will begin momentarily. Please enjoy the following messages from our sponsors.
Tomorrow. Tomorrow is what we make it. And we're making it happen today. By providing the energy life demands while reducing our environmental impact. We know there's no single path to net zero, and we're committed to putting in the energy to get there. Because when we step up and meet the challenges of today, tomorrow is on.
Nick?
When life knocks you down, it helps to know someone's in your corner. At Blue Cross, we never stop supporting you with access to the care you need to keep moving forward. Every step, every challenge, it all adds up. For 86 years, we've shown up, stood strong, and had your back. Because at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, your fight is our fight.
Distinguished guests, please welcome the Chief Executive Officer of Sam Mack Communications Incorporated, Christy McDonald.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me? Is this thing on? Gosh, I feel like it's like 30 years of my life. Is this thing on? Can you hear me? Welcome to the Detroit Regional Chamber's International Women's Day. It is the 8th annual Women's Day event that the Detroit Regional Chambers put on. Yes, amazing. And I have to say that I have been honored to be the MC and moderator for all 8. They keep asking me back. I keep sliding them the check. But really, this is my favorite event to do every year because of the energy that's in this room and the conversation that I know is happening at each and every one of these tables in here. It's been amazing out front as well. I just want you to know that I have bought all the Samoas. So you're out of luck, but if you're a Samoa fan, meet me out front. We can talk a little bit about that. I want to give you an idea of what the rest of the program is going to be for the afternoon. We have a dynamic panel of very accomplished women who are going to be coming up here and kind of giving their own TED Talk, just short talks, and then they're all going to be joining me back up on stage, and we're going to have a conversation. We're going to be talking about the theme of International Women's Day this year, which is, of course, Give to Gain. And when you think about opening up your palms and coming forward, because I know that a lot of you are already giving. You are giving at work, you are giving at home, and you are giving in your community. And when I think about how I show up to give, I think about really, I have to understand what my values are before I show up to be able to give. And I've had this really kind of crazy journey over the last year in thinking about what I value. And I wanted to share a little bit with you on that. So I gave you a little pictorial of how people usually know me. For the past 30 years, I've worked in television. I've been on the anchor desk for 27 years in Detroit. There's a lot of hairstyles there, friends. There's a lot. I did not include the short hair 90s Christy. You have to come see me later if you're interested in seeing that doom. But that's how people have usually seen me and related to me. 27 years, the red light went on, and it was performance, and it was precision every single day. The one that's on the far right is me in my natural habitat, and that is with my kids. And that is Cinderella's castle in the background. I've raised Disney children. I don't know how I did it, and I'm broke. But that is me with my kids, because at the very foundation of what my values are, I am a mother, and I am a daughter, and I am a sister. And that informs a lot of how I show up. But this past year, it was just about a year ago, I took a major leap in my life. I left the career that I knew backwards and forwards that I could do in my sleep. I left television, I left the red light, I left what I had identified me for so long. And I said to myself, there's something more. I'm going to start building something for myself. And I started building something, and I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm building a business, I'm writing a book, and sometimes writing a book feels like a massive mistake as well. But through all of that chaos over the last year in what I've been creating, I've been able to have some quiet moments and sit and say to myself, what do I really value? What are the values that I have that have me show up in a room, that do the business that I do, that have the connections that I have with people? What do I truly value? Not what a company values, not what my employer values, not what people expect me to value, and I want to meet those expectations because maybe I'm a pleaser. But what do I value? It's been a really interesting journey. You know, the eggheads at MIT did some research on this and on values. And they actually came up and said, leaders make better decisions when they are grounded in their values. But what are they? And when's the last time that you stopped to think about what your values are? What drives you? So I came up with a top 10 list for me this year, in no particular order. And they're not the right ones. They're just what I have found on my journey so far. And I want to see if they maybe spark something in you. First one is peace. For me, peace. If I ever get a tattoo, and oh, my friends, I'm considering it. My tattoo ladies come up and talk to me after this event today and just tell me if it really hurts. I would get this word tattooed right here on my wrist, peace. Some of my best work has happened in the smallest of spaces, in the quietest of rooms, helping an executive find her voice. I helped a small group, a leadership group, think about how they listen to each other. And I spoke to the smallest room of caregivers, and they finally felt seen and understood. That is peace to me. Time. I finally know my zone of work. Morning coffee, I do the best thinking. After 7 p.m. on my couch, I am awesome. And it's usually with like a heated blanket because this winter's been terrible. We were just talking about it over here. But I don't do anything in full hair and makeup before 8 a.m. anymore, which is why I love the Detroit Regional Chamber. Thank you. Which is why I love the Detroit Regional Chamber making this a lunch and not a breakfast at 7 a.m., which back times ladies to 5:30 a.m. You know it. Hair, makeup, whatever. Now I'm driving down, I got the heels on, I'm changing from my sneakers, and I'm walking in the venue, and it's 7:10. And you know that someone just put a suit on, just put a tie on, and went like this with their hair, and they're like, we love morning events. Am I right? Energy. After 30 years of working in news, my fight or flight system was broken. I realized it. I had major burnout of thinking that everything was important at every moment. I finally settled my nervous system this past year, and I understood where I wanted to put my energy, what helps my energy, what drains my energy and my battery, and I have to then make the right decision for me. I value my energy. Gut feelings. Who's listened to their gut and made a decision? All right, that's good. Who's listened to the gut and said, nah, but then 6 months later, like, oh. Yes, me too. I've done all of those things. I listen to that gut. It is there for a reason. It works. I know when people want to collaborate with me. I know when people want to see what they can get from me. Listen to that small voice. That's what I have also discovered this year. Growth. I am learning and feeling dumb. That's a really hard position for me to be in because as a journalist, I never went on the air without knowing the answer, without having it vetted 3 times. Something's been edited, it's been fact-checked twice, and I came on with information. I walked through this year saying, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. And I'm learning how to send out invoices, and I'm learning how to make deals, and I am making mistakes everywhere that I go. But there is something invigorating about saying, you know what? I need help with this, and I am just learning. I don't have to have all the answers. It's a beautiful feeling. Play. Oh my gosh, I think we're missing play in our lives. There's so much regimented around where we have to be and what we should do, the shoulds, right? I do some of my best thinking when I'm lifting weights. Come on, midlife ladies, we gotta get those weights, right? I did have a weighted vest and I chucked it. I hated it. I tried to do the walking with the weighted vest. Walking the dog. I play tennis. I say I hold office hours on the tennis court once a week because there's also community there. And it's important to have play. Flow. Where are my control freaks? Oh, thank you. Yes. Hello, I see you. It's great. Hi, I'm Christy. I'm a recovering control freak. Still there. Flow. It was very hard for me, people saying, you left television? Why? And then, now what are you doing? And not being to completely identify what I was doing. I had to be in flow. I had to take it as it came and say, this is what I'd like to do. I'm now a speaker. I now work with people on their presence. I now teach leadership groups how to strategically listen to each other. But I didn't know that. I had to find that, and I had to flow with it. It was okay not to label something and to have it all figured out. I just made eye contact with someone I'd known since elementary school. Hi, Kendra. My story is one of my values. I am writing a book called Thanks for the Lasagna, Just Send Booze. It is the story of me caregiving for my husband who had cancer and then passed away, and what I've been able to create since and how to figure out what life is. And I've started writing, and I've started writing essays and publishing them on Substack. And as someone, again, who always had a finished product that was always polished, that always seemed to be done and just so, this is messy. But having people understand my story and see it for what it is has become more powerful than I ever thought it could be. Community. This has been a big one for me, to be able to connect with people intentionally. Not just, oh, I'll see you later, but investing in new friendships. Also keeping up the old ones as well, knowing that I can't do it alone. I was very deliberate in finding women-led companies to redesign my website, to do my video for speaking, and invest in them. It's huge, and it's something that I saw as a journalist, but never really got to dive deeply into. And it's been one of the most important things because we can't do it alone. Our community is our biggest superpower. And the last value that I wrote, but to me it's the most important, is standing on the box. For so long, personally, I was in the box. You saw this version of me. And I often wonder about how many versions we put out into the world that we say, is this truly me, or is this a version that other people want to see of me? In the box, kind of carrying out somebody else's vision. Well, now I'm standing on the box. I have fallen off the box. I have hung on the side of the box with a leg dangling. But I get to do it all on my own terms and making decisions. I know there's a lot of privilege in being able to say this right now, to be able to take that leap. But it has been the most invigorating and scary and invigorating thing I've ever done. And that to me means that I'm aligned with my values. It's so interesting when I start talking to people about values and everyone's like, ooh, I have a value, or I have a value. So I know that all the wheels are turning right now. Is there anyone that wants to shout out a value? Honesty. Courage? Courage. Empathy, absolutely. Being able to see where other people are and walk with them and not solve it. I love that. Anything else? Authenticity. Ooh, we know when people walk into a room and are not authentic with you. That's huge. What else? Anything else? Curiosity. I love that. Transparency. It's beautiful. Trust. Grace. That's beautiful. Boundaries. for ourselves and for others. When we start thinking about these things, and I encourage you to pull a value and think about it today, because there's going to be a thread when we think about give to gain and how we show up to give, that your values are going to be key, all right? So think about that when we have this next group of fantastic women who are going to come up and speak with you, and then we're going to wrap it all together here on this stage. Thank you so much.
Please welcome the Senior Vice President of Community Relations, President of the BCBSM Foundation, and Chief Inclusion Officer for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, Tiffany Albert.
Good afternoon. Before we talk about leadership, career paths, development, or progress, I want you to think about something that we are rarely encouraged to do in moments of success. Let go. Just let go. I'm Tiffany Albert, and I lead a work that sits at the intersection of community, culture, and responsibility. Work that asks a simple but demanding question. How do we show up in ways that actually matter? And there's no better occasion than to pose this question than as we celebrate International Women's Day. Because even now, after decades of progress, too many women are still navigating systems that reward holding on to titles, holding on to control, holding on to power. We're taught that growth comes from accumulation, that success is something that you protect, that once you earn your seat, you guard it. But this year's International Women's Day theme, as you've heard, challenges that entire notion. Give to gain. What if the real path to growth, personal, professional, and collective, doesn't come from holding tighter, but from giving more? What if giving isn't what we do after we succeed, but what actually creates success in the first place? That's the idea that I'd like to explore with you today. But before I move forward, I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to thank the Detroit Regional Chamber. It's an organization that understands that real progress doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when leaders, institutions, and communities choose to move forward together. Thank you, DRC, for creating the space for this conversation and for marking International Women's Day, not just with celebration, but with intention. So I want you to picture a pie. Everybody's seen pie, right? We all know pie. Many of us, especially women, have been taught, whether directly or indirectly, that this pie is limited. There's only one pie. We have a limited number of leadership roles, a limited number of seats at the table, and a limited amount of influence, recognition, and dare I say, a limited amount of grace. This narrative, whether conscious or unconscious, can sometimes pit us against one another. It can make us hesitant to extend a hand, to share a spotlight, or to champion another woman's success. We start guarding our slice. We refrain from advocating for another woman. We second-guess sharing information. And we wonder quietly, if I help her, is there going to be a piece left for me? I heard some ums, yeah. And I've learned that this belief, this scarcity mindset, costs us more than what we realize. But what if the pie was never limited? What if every time we give, whether it's knowledge, visibility, or access, we're not actually losing anything? What if we're expanding the entire bakery? That's the idea that's at the heart of Give to Gain. It's the lived truth that generosity isn't loss of power, but a multiplier. I believe that when people have the right support, whether it's mentorship, allyship, advocacy, tools, resources, education, training, we don't just grow, we actually become limitless. So what if by lifting others, we're actually building a stronger foundation, not just for ourselves, but for everyone that comes after us? Think about it. When we share what we know, we don't dilute our expertise. We clarify our thinking. We spark new ideas, and we create a collective intelligence that benefits all of us. When we share our career journeys with young people, we're reinforcing our own wisdom, helping shape a more skilled and more confident workforce. That's gaining. In fact, every meaningful step forward in my career didn't come from someone guarding information. It came from someone opening a door and saying, "Let me show you how this works." So people often look at leadership titles. I had a lot of titles, y'all saw that, right? And you assume there's a straight, obvious path to get there. I will tell you candidly, my path was anything but that. I started out studying engineering and mathematics, and when I joined the workforce, my career moved through IT, training, design and development, operations, provider relations, hospital contracting, new business development, sales and account management, and on and on and on. It was an unconventional path. It was not something that looked pretty on paper. It was scattered. It was messy. Lots of lateral moves and some promotions, some not promoted. Mentors, however, gave me context when I felt lost. Leaders took the time to explain to me the why and not just the what. And people saw potential in me before I ever fully saw it in myself. And they told me that I belonged in the room and that I had earned my seat at the table. And I would ask all of you, I know there are a few men in the room, I'm not really talking to y'all right now. You ladies, I need you to recognize you have earned wherever you are, you've earned that seat at the table. And when you're in the room, you need to own that. But my mentors reminded me that learning out loud wasn't a weakness. Growth didn't require having it all figured out, and I still don't have it all figured out. I just have a willingness to keep going. The generosity of my mentees didn't just transfer knowledge, it transferred confidence. I would frequently borrow the confidence that someone else had in me. I would fake it till I could make it, right? So confidence changes everything. Between 2016 and 2019, I served as president and CEO for Blue Care Network. I was also mentoring about 25 people. I know that sounds crazy. Friends thought I was doing the most, and they questioned if I could be effective in my day job with so many mentees. Was I giving too much of my time? Was I not focused on my key responsibilities? And some days, frankly, I wondered if they might be right. But here's what surprised me. Giving my time didn't drain me. It inspired me. It fueled me. It sharpened me. And it helped me grow in ways that I'd never imagined. For context, I was the first African American and only the second woman to lead the consolidated HMO. And so when my appointment was announced, you might imagine there was a lot of chatter. There was a lot of, who is that? And how did she get there? And what's her career path? And did she know all along that this is what she wanted to do? And the answer was no. I had no clue. I had never imagined myself in that seat. But my mentors saw something in me. So I started sharing my story because I wanted to help others, especially those that felt uncertain or unfinished. I wanted them to know that you don't have to have it all figured out to move forward. Discomfort breeds growth, and as I love to say all the time, people on my team know this, you have to learn to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Say it with me, learn to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So in my mentoring relationships, I learned from people across every crevice, every corner of the organization. People with decades of experience and lots of institutional knowledge. I also learned from people that were newer in their careers that had an unapologetic drive to challenge the status quo. Those were some of my best teachers, frankly. Mentoring became my passion, and it helped me to build trust and loyalty, and it turned me into a connector, a convener of ideas and people, a skill that I leverage to this day. That's my superpower. I like to connect people. So the mentors that poured into me modeled generosity. And when I chose to pay it forward, I didn't lose momentum. I gained clarity, resilience, and purpose. So I've learned something over the years, that giving doesn't have to be complicated or powerful. There are 3 simple ways that all of us, every one of us in this room, can give and gain at the same time. First, give knowledge. Not just the outcome, but also the playbook. Share what you've learned the hard way. Explain the unwritten rules and demystify the process. Second, give visibility. Speak her name in a room she's not in. Credit her ideas. Advocate when it really counts. Because visibility builds confidence long before it builds resumes, and confidence changes how people show up. Third, access. One introduction, one invitation, one open door. Access changes trajectories, often faster than talent alone ever could. And here's the part I really want you to hear. None of this diminishes your influence. It expands it. That's powerful, and that's give to gain in action. So here's my invitation to you. You have a to-do list here, ladies. This week, choose one woman, just one. Give her knowledge, visibility, or access. Do it quietly, do it intentionally. And you don't need permission or a title. Some of you are probably thinking, well, I'm just a da-da-da. You don't need permission or a title. Everyone in this room has the ability to open a door and give knowledge, visibility, or access. Pay attention to what happens, because it's not just for her, it's also for you. Giving has a way of reminding us of who we are at our core, who we are at our very best. So giving's not subtraction, it's intentional multiplication. When women lift each other, opportunities expand. When women share power, our confidence grows. And when women thrive, organizations and communities rise with us. So let's stop guarding slices. Let's start building bakeries. Give to gain. Thank you, ladies.
Please welcome the Executive Director of New Economy Initiative at the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, Wafa Denaro.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. So my name is Wafat Denaro. I am the Executive Director of the New Economy Initiative at the Community Foundation. Some of you in the room may know me from my previous role as the Economic Development Director at Wayne County. But I'm not here to talk about any of that. I'm here to tell you a little bit about who I was before the titles. And because that's what really matters to what comes next after me. I was a 3-year-old girl on a plane from Lebanon to the United States. My family didn't decide to leave to pursue the American dream. My family didn't have a choice. They left South Lebanon because our village was occupied after a war, and the Israeli government had occupied our village. So my parents packed up everything they knew, everything they had, everybody they loved, and they got on a plane towards a future that they didn't know. And I personally don't remember leaving, but I've spent my entire life understanding what it cost my parents to leave and what they were hoping to find. And what they found, it was Detroit. And Detroit was incredibly hard. I mean, Detroit was really, really hard. Sorry, we're having, oh, there we go. So my dad worked 2 jobs in Detroit, and that wasn't because he loved it, it was because we needed it. And I never had to be told what hard work looked like. Hard work was leaving the house before the sunrise and coming home exhausted every single night. And my mother held everything else together at home. She was the one I would look for in crowds like this when I was at school performances, and I would scan the room until I saw her face. And in a country that didn't quite feel like home yet, she was always my home. And then together, the both of them, without ever having to tell me these words, taught me the first lesson that I want to share with you guys today. You give what you have. You give your time, you give your labor, you give your money, and you give your presence without ever knowing what's going to come back to you. And that's really my definition of courage. That's become my definition of courage. That's how I define it. And I watch that every single day of my life growing up. And then my parents made this bet on 5 kids. And then today, those 5 kids, one of them is a teacher, one of them is a pharmacist. We have 2 entrepreneurs, and then there's me. And then I'm the one in the Smurf shirt, in case you guys are wondering. So 2 jobs, 2 parents, 5 kids, a village they were forced to leave, and look what came back. And then one of my clearest memories growing up from all of those years was going grocery shopping with my mom. And I know this sounds very insignificant, but I loved it. I loved going grocery shopping. It felt really normal. I felt like a normal kid. But what I didn't know, and what I didn't really know and understand until years and years later, was the place we were shopping at was called Focus Hope. And this place wasn't a regular grocery store. It was for families who didn't have enough. And I didn't know it at the time, but we were one of those families, and we didn't have enough. And what stays with me to this day, and what I bring into my current work, and what I bring with me every day, is that I didn't feel poor then. I didn't feel poor. My parents didn't make us feel poor, and I didn't feel poor going to what I thought was a regular grocery store. And someone at Focus Hope, someone at that organization made that choice. They made the choice to decide, and they decided that dignity mattered than charity optics. And that little girl had no idea that she was being shaped in that moment. But she was. She would take those with her throughout her entire career. And that shaping would show up again much sooner rather than later. And then when I was 8, there I am. I was at the kitchen table reading my parents' mail. And it wasn't because I was nosy, although I am and I was. But it's because they needed me to. I was calling the utility company, trying to understand why the bill was higher than the previous month, then translating it to my parents so that they could take action. And that was at 8 years old. At 8 years old, I was navigating systems that were not designed for people who looked like me, who spoke like me, and were definitely not designed for an 8-year-old to navigate. And then we look at kids like me, and all we see is hardship. And I want to take a minute and tell you guys that you need to see something else. You need to see a future teammate. You need to see a future leader, someone who's been building skills since the 3rd grade that most people never develop. The ability to stay calm in complexity, the ability to translate both literally and figuratively, and to advocate for others. Those things, to get things done in systems that were never designed for those people. And those kids grow up to be absolutely extraordinary, not despite what they carried, but because of what they carried. And that stayed with me all of these years through my current work at the New Economy Initiative. And I always say, my team gets really tired of me, but I always say when we design programs, I always ask the same question. Could 8-year-old me understand this? Could 8-year-old me translate this to her parents? And if the answer is no, then the work continues and our work isn't done. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because the road from the kitchen table to NEI has been anything but straight. And it seems to be the theme that careers aren't really linear, and my life hasn't been linear. It's been really, I would have never been able to imagine being here today because nobody told me economic development or even philanthropy were career options. Those were absolutely invisible to me. I didn't know they existed. I was an ESL kid. I had no map. All I had was the same thing that my dad had, an ability to work really hard and show up not knowing what came next and not knowing where I was going. And then that took me to the University of Michigan in Dearborn, and then later I moved to DC to go get my degree in public policy from Georgetown. And then I met my husband, and then I left to go work for the Department of Defense, where I met my husband. That is a whole nother story we can do some other time. And eventually, I met my husband, and eventually we looked at each other and we said, it's time to go back to Detroit. Go back for me, and I brought the +1 to Detroit to grow the population. And then I never came back because I had a plan. I came back because Detroit was home. Detroit had become home. Detroit was where I was from. And now I have 3 kids and a beautiful family that I am also trying to teach what I learned the hard way. I want them to understand that Detroit and this region is worth betting on because I was an ESL kid from a refugee family, and Detroit gave me all of the opportunities. An ESL kid from a refugee family doesn't end up here by accident. She gets here because someone or lots of people along the way, people, programs, decided that she was worth investing in. And I didn't know I was a recipient of that investment, but I have been a recipient of that investment along the way. And she gets here because someone gave first, and a whole lot of someones gave first for me to be here. And that's exactly what my whole story is about. Every meaningful thing in my life is because someone gave without knowing what the outcome would be. My parents gave up their home. My father gave up his sleep. Focus Hope gave dignity to a girl who didn't even know she needed it. And somewhere along the way, a whole lot of institutions and people gave me access and opportunity that I could have never found on my own. At some point, I stopped being the recipient and started being the giver, and that's really when everything had changed. So here's really what I want to leave you with. The next leader of the city, of this region, of the state, she's already here. She's already in Detroit. She might be in an ESL classroom. She might be shopping somewhere with her mom, not knowing that the place isn't a normal grocery store. She might be 8 years old, reading her parents' mail, translating it for them, and building the skills to really make her an extraordinary leader. But we have to let her. We talk a lot about building the future, but that future is not coming. The future is already here. She's already here. We just don't know her name yet. And so I really want to encourage you guys to support the programs, welcome the immigrants, extend dignity to the most vulnerable, not as charity, because this is an investment. This is an investment in all of our futures, in all of our collective futures. And really give the same that someone gave to you. Everyone in here has been a recipient of an organization, of a person, of an institution, and it's time to give back. I was 3 years old on a plane from a village that was no longer safe. Nobody could have predicted what came next for me, not my parents, not society, but here I am today. And no one can predict the future, and that's exactly the point. Neither can we, which is why it's so important to give anyway, not knowing what comes next. And I am so grateful to be up here, and I want to thank everybody for being here, including the Chamber for putting this incredible event together. Thank you, and I'm going to encourage you once again to give to the organizations, to give, to receive, and to ultimately give without knowing what comes back. Thank you.
Please welcome the Vice President of Customer and Community Engagement at DTE Energy, Yvette Hollins.
Hi everyone, my name is Yvette Hollins and I'm the Vice President of Customer and Community Engagement at DTE Energy. It's an honor to be here today, most because I used to work for the Chamber, and so this feels like coming home to family today. Gatherings like this matter. We often think of success as accumulation. The titles, how much money you make, how much influence you have. Many high-achieving women were taught to compete, to prove, to outwork, to earn our seat. But no one told us that climbing alone comes at a cost. The old definition of leadership was power. Power that was limited, protected. Power that was guarded. Success was treated like a finite resource, as if only some were meant to make it and reach the top. And for a long time, there wasn't enough room at the table, especially for women. But that thinking is now changing. We've all heard the slogans, we've all gone on social media, girl power, rah rah, you know the memes that we post, especially this month, because it's Women's History Month, and they're Instagram ready, and it feels good. But let's take the sentiment out of it for a moment. Because reciprocity isn't about good vibes, it's also about leverage. So I'm not here today to tell you to support other women because it feels good, because we all know that feelings don't build institutions, and they sure as hell don't dismantle centuries of structural imbalance and inclusion. That's what strategy does. So what if reciprocity is strategy? It's really a concept that I've been reflecting on. It's called force multiplication. This is Newton's cradle. It's not inspirational, it's physics. So you can tell I've been hanging out with a lot of engineers at DTE, because I am not a science person, but I understand this concept. This is physics. One input, controlled transfer, and exceptional output. It's a visual and scientific representation of what force multiplication is. A force multiplier is anything that increases output without requiring a proportional increased effort. It's how small inputs result in outsized results. In business, we do this all the time, right? We invest in technology because it allows us to scale. We invest in capital because it expands us. But we rarely talk about people as being force multipliers. A force multiplier in leadership is someone who just doesn't perform well themselves. They increase the performance of everyone around them. They don't hoard information, they transfer it. They don't protect access, they share it. They don't guard credibility, they lend it. Reciprocity is the mechanism. Force multiplication is the outcome. When one woman succeeds alone, it's progress. But when she becomes a force multiplier, that's acceleration. We've been taught to prove ourselves individually, but real power is building a system that performs beyond you. So let me tell you about what that looked like for me in my career. Early in my career, there was an executive who did something that changed my life and my trajectory. Her name is Linda Forte, and at the time, she was the Senior Vice President of Customer Relations at Comerica Bank, reported to the CEO. She was busy. She was senior. She was very in demand. But whenever I called, she picked up. Whenever I asked her, she made time. Not because she had extra hours, not because she was free all the time, but because she had intention. And she didn't just give me advice, she gave me access. She invited me into rooms. She attached my name to opportunities. She spoke about me in rooms that I wasn't in. Now looking back, and being an executive myself, I realize exactly how busy Linda must have been. But she never made me feel like an interruption. She gave freely without anything tangible to gain, or so it seemed. Because by lifting me up, Linda helped shape the leader that I am today. She made me a better professional and a better person. I found myself in those moments time and time again. A mentee or somebody that I work with needs attention and time. And it's always on the busiest day of the year where my calendar is stacked back to back. But each time I think about Linda and how powerful it meant and how powerful it was to me that to have somebody give their time when I needed it the most. So you see, I'm a product of force multiplication. And thanks to Linda, I became the youngest person ever to be named a corporate officer at DTE Energy. Thank you. But that's not the headline. The headline is that her decision didn't just change my life, it's impacting hundreds more. Because the access that she gave me, I'm now intentionally giving it away. And if that isn't force multiplication, then I don't know what is. That is the power of women giving. So, it has been said that women are natural multipliers. Whatever you give a woman, she expands. Give her a seed, she'll create life. Give her a house, she'll make it a home. Give her ingredients, she'll turn it into nourishment. Give her love, and she will reflect it back tenfold. But it also works both ways. If you give her trouble, you better run. Momentum multiplies, and here is what we underestimate. Momentum is rarely visible in the beginning. When Linda advocated for me, there was no applause, there was no announcement. It was a conversation in a room that I wasn't even in. Momentum often begins in private. One promotion changes the title. Repeated sponsorship changes a pipeline. Momentum creates opportunity. Opportunity creates energy. And at DTE, we know a little something about energy. And not just the kind we deliver to customers, but the kind that we create internally. I'm fortunate enough to have 12 other executive leadership colleagues who are women, and I'm fortunate to work for a company where our CEO is a woman, another force multiplier named Joy Harris, the first Black African American CEO in DTE Energy's history. Great. And where entrepreneur and author Jenna Kutcher once said, imagine what happens if women stop asking for a seat at the table and instead build longer ones. That's what today is about. That's what International Women's Day represents, women building longer tables. What would happen today if every woman in this room decided to become a force multiplier? Not once, not when it's convenient, but consistently. Our companies would change, our boards would change, our capital would change, our communities would change. So the question isn't whether or not you are going to succeed because you are. The question is whether your success will scale. So don't rise, multiply.
Please welcome the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Innovative Solution Partners, Maria Saifuddin.
Don't tell anyone you worked for your parents because they'll think you're daddy's little girl. That's what I was told by an MBA student in a mock job interview in my last year in college. You see, I'm the kid of immigrants. I grew up in my parents' small business, repairing and selling computers. And if you know anything about mom and pop stores, you do whatever needs to be done to keep the lights on. And so my mom had me do accounting, my dad had me answer the phones, and along the way, I learned how to repair computers and install networks. But back in that moment, in that mock interview, all that experience washed away. There I was, sitting in a tiny little office on the second floor of the B School, across from this MBA student in his perfectly ironed khakis and polo. And with that one phrase, daddy's little girl, I became small, invisible, and angry. He had no idea the depth of experience that I had gained working for my parents, yet judgment was easy. Fast forward 30 years, and I'm honored to be here in front of all of you. I've had the honor of serving as president for the National Association of Women Business Owners here in Greater Detroit. I've even presented an award to Governor Whitmer. I've been invited to speak internationally on the role of AI in the lives of women and business. I've won awards. I've worked with clients that range from industries like automotive and manufacturing to consumer products and utilities. But there was a time in my life where I felt like a failure. Like I didn't have anything to give professionally or personally. And I proved that MBA student wrong by landing a job at a Big Six consulting firm downtown. But I really struggled. I had no idea how to navigate that system. I had no mentor. And my mom basically forced me to keep that job because she didn't want me to depend on the family business for my future. I really would have bailed if it weren't for her. And she didn't want me to suffer the way she did when she immigrated to this country with no college degree and no credit history, and no one would hire her. But I struggled in my own way. I was mentally exhausted, trying to figure everything out. The partner tree, my non-existent manager, how everything I was doing did not align with the job that I was hired for. Every morning, alarm clock turned on, I muted it a couple of times. I struggled to get up and show up to work, a place where I was killing my spirit day after day. So as I share my story of now where I find myself leading my organization, I will tell you why it's been a journey from those days of when I really didn't think I had anything to give. On the outside, everything looked great, right? I'm growing a business, I'm raising a family, everything's balanced. But the reality was I wasn't balancing anything well. I was depressed, burnt out, and likely miserable to be around. And at that moment, I was struggling because nothing seemed to match up. Because when you have this ideal scenario in your head, nothing ever looks right. And I thought, how is a kid that graduates at the top 10% of her class from the Ross School of Business end up feeling like this? But then it happened. One day, I got a call from the daughter of a dear immigrant friend. She was starting her first job. She was struggling to show up at a workplace that had her constantly stressed out, mentally drained. And more importantly, she was worried about what the impact would be on her career if she decided to leave. And in that moment of when she was concerned and upset, she thought of calling me, someone in her eyes that understood it all. And that was a full circle moment for me. Because until that time, I hadn't really thought about my journey. And I hadn't realized that just showing up and raising my family and being engaged in the community was creating visibility for someone else. And that in founding my company, Innovative Solution Partners, where we now provide AI and cloud-based data and analytic reporting solutions for Fortune 1000 companies and larger, that I was creating visibility, because leadership is more than what you accomplish. It's about what others think is possible because you did it. And that full circle moment became even more powerful for me because I realized that my journey that started that long time ago, working for my parents, now allows me to work with my clients and bridge that gap and bring technology and business teams together to reach a common goal. And the craziest thing that came out of working with her as we worked through her path was that she gave me something unexpected, clarity. I didn't leave that first job because of that non-existent manager. I left because that system wasn't designed for someone who didn't know how to navigate it. She gave me permission to own my greatness. We all have it. It's our values, it's our beliefs, it's our talents. We all have greatness. She gave me the permission to own and value my own journey. And as I sit here with all of you today, I'm realizing that leadership, as we talk about what you accomplish and what others think is possible, she taught me one thing: it's not about perfection. At that moment in time, she needed somebody to listen to her, to give her perspective, encouragement, and authenticity. And each of us has that power here in this room. So think about what your journey looks like and what you can do to open a door, mentor someone. Be that voice, because when you do, you not only gain confidence and clarity, you make a community. So I invite each and every one of you today to take a moment to own your own journey and the greatness that comes along with it. Thank you.
Joining Maria on stage, please welcome back Tiffany Alpert, Wafa Denaro, and Yvette Hollins. And to moderate the discussion, please welcome back Christy McDonald.
That's the first time I've had "Let's get this party started" as walk up. I was kind of excited by it. I loved hearing from everyone here. I want to drill down now to Give to Gain. I found a thread that went through every one of yours presentation in terms of how we show up and how we show up for others and help push, carry, and walk along with others forward. And I want to give people almost practical advice here today, because I know we give so much. So let's see how this actually works when we say we're going to give. So when we say yes to a board seat or to a new initiative or to a mentorship, what are the actual parameters that you use to make that decision to say yes? And I'm going to start with you, Tiffany, because you talked about I'm mentoring, what, how many? 100 people at one point?
No. There's only like 25, but I'm down to maybe 5. I'm like off the, I'm still mentoring, but just not as many.
So how do you make that decision to say yes? What are the parameters or things that you have to take into consideration?
I was smiling at you, Christy, because anyone that knows me knows I usually will say yes right away. People, if you ask, I'm usually like, yes, I'll help you. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But now I've learned, I've been in the role that I'm in now for about a year, and I've learned in the last year to be a little bit more discerning. So if it's someone that's seeking mentorship, I'm actually looking to determine whether or not he or she is willing to invest in themselves. I've had people approach me in the past that said, oh, I want mentorship, and then they want to come and hear my career journey. I give them an assignment to do something that we mutually agreed upon, and then a month passes, they haven't done it, and so they usually get cut from the role. So they have to be willing to invest in themselves. If they're not willing to do the work, then I can't do it for them. Mm-hmm. So that's one way I determine a mentee.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, and we'll talk a little bit about, I think, the tension of saying yes, that you say yes all the time, and then the power of how you say no. That's next. But Wafa, I want to ask you, I mean, you have the decisions when you're working with NEI of millions and millions of dollars decision. How do you take that in a personal way and make those parameters of saying yes?
So I also always want to say yes, and I think that's maybe a woman thing. And there's a couple things that I always weigh is how much of an impact is this having, and we always want to have the biggest and the best impact. And how is this supporting the most vulnerable? That's always a question at the core of the work that we do, is how do we support the most vulnerable? With NEI, we understand intelligence and ideas are distributed equally, but opportunity is not. And access to capital, access to opportunity is not distributed equally. How do we get the resources to the best ideas so that so somebody who doesn't have the rich uncle will have the infrastructure of a rich uncle? And that's always how we look at our investment and how we invest in the small business ecosystem to support entrepreneurs.
Yeah, Yvette, what about you? I mean, when you have to make the decision of yes between all of the things that you were maybe asked to do, what are the parameters that you have to go through in your head?
Yeah, I think what's been said is really interesting, because I agree there has to be a willingness to change, but also I sometimes, especially on the mentorship front, when I get requests, I think, am I the best person to actually be mentoring them? Mm-hmm. Part of force multiplication is you're creating other people who can also be mentors. And so oftentimes I'm sending people in a better direction. And I say better because people will sometimes ask you to be a mentor because of your title, or they connect with you on a personal level that they like. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right mentor for you. There are people who are in rooms that I am not in, especially at DTE. It's a very large company, and so there might be someone who's better positioned to help you. And so I try, and it may not be a no, but it's a yes, but maybe not me, or a yes, but maybe not this right now. I think is sometimes really important. And I think recognizing that there are sometimes providing awareness about other resources. One of the jobs that I have at DT is leading our foundation. And so I also, get to give away money and be a part of stewarding our dollars. And so there's opportunity, things oftentimes where things fit, but oftentimes where I call other funders and say, I think this is more aligned to you. So I think thinking more broadly about the access that we have, and not just being narrowly focused on what can I give, but what can my ecosystem help provide that doesn't have to be directly related or tied to my time too.
Maria, I think your perspective is interesting, because as a business owner, sometimes the time is money. And when you are making decisions about to engage into new initiatives or be a mentor or be on a board where you're starting to spread your energy around, what are the parameters that you have to kind of place around that to make those decisions?
Great question. I think there's a common theme that we all like to say yes. One of the things that I've learned, that when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And so as I'm looking at, I currently sit on a couple boards. They're all aligned with, as you talk about, values and mission. So now when I look at opportunities, that's really what it is, right? It's not only about business opportunities, but where is it that we can show up and give our talents? So usually when somebody invites me on, I ask them, what kind of talents are you looking for? Because as you said, we might not be the right fit, but we know somebody that could be the right fit.
So then what does your no look like? And how do you say it in the most professional way, Tiffany, without apologizing for it? And without fear that now there's some kind of disappointment or you've been checked as someone who does not want to do something?
Well, first and foremost, I will reiterate for everyone in the room that no is a complete sentence. You can say no, and it's
Say it loud.
no period, right? But I think there's a way to say everything. As long as you're treating people with respect, and I like to offer context as well. So if I say no, I may go on to let them know, it's just not something I can give time to right now. I've got other obligations. But to Yvette's point, I frequently will connect people to others. That is like the most favorite part of my job is I get to convene people, and there may not be something I can personally do or that Blue Cross Blue Shield might be able to do for an organization with our funding or charitable giving, but I know the Michigan Health Endowment Fund, or I know, XYZ organization. So I can say, no, that's not something that we're able to do or I'm able to do right now, but let me connect you to someone else that might be able to take you through this next step.
Because I think saying no also gets to protecting time and protecting energy, which I talked about a little bit earlier. Wafa, how do you say no or feel comfortable saying no?
No took me a really long time to learn. I mean, it really did. It took me a long time to learn how to say no. But for me, I had to prioritize. I have 3 kids, I have a husband, I have my extended family, and I also want to take care of myself. And so I have 3 priorities, work and my career, my family, and then my own personal health. And I can always do 2 of those 3 things really, really well. I can't ever do 3 of those things. And so I look at things over like a week, over a month. If I'm doing 2 out of the 3 really well, if I'm working out every single day and going to all my kids' sports events, like usually work is taking a back burner, and that's okay, because then the next week I might be missing my kids' sports, but I'm still working out. And so I always look at it over the long term. I can't do everything. My time is limited, my capacity is limited. But I try and also connect people. Like if I'm gonna say no, I'm gonna give some context, like this, I don't have the capacity, but maybe you should consider this, or I cannot fund this, but let me make a connection with another funder who can support you.
I love how you're weaving personal and professional, because when I think of how fast you have grown and what your trajectory is in business right now, and in the company, was there ever a fear of saying no would track you in a different way?
Oh yes, all the time. Because especially when you're young and you want to take on everything because you feel like you need the experience and the exposure. But what I've learned is that sometimes saying yes to the wrong thing can be just as bad. I tell people, especially those I mentor, that the sun can either dull your suit or it can make you shine. And that's really important about being intentional about what opportunities you're taking and the timing. There are people that, I'll give you a personal example. There's times in my life where I've had the ability and the willingness, and my life has been in a position where I could go really hard at work. And there's been other times where I've had to take a little bit of a step back because of whatever was happening personally or otherwise. And so if I had rose my hand in that time, I would have failed, right? And so I think because I didn't have the ability to really be able to lean in the way I should have. And so being intentional is actually a superpower. It allows you to be that much more effective. And I think it's really important that everyone spend a lot of time with yourself, learning what it is you're really trying to accomplish. And that will help you as you need to kind of weigh the options of whether it's a yes or a no. So that's been very helpful for me, is saying, this could be really good, but it also could be really bad if it's not done well.
Yeah, I love the intentionality so you don't end up in a burnout position. Maria, what about you in terms of learning that no is the complete sentence, as Tiffany says?
It took me a long time to figure that out. One of the things I realized is that us saying no, it's okay to take care of yourself. And I don't think as women we give ourselves enough grace and accept that it's okay to put ourselves first. What I do believe is that when we say no, is I try to get an understanding of what they're trying to accomplish and then walk them through that path to figure out where is it that we can get them the resources that they need and get a yes.
Yeah, intentional. You know what, we only have about 2 minutes left here. This has been an amazing morning and early afternoon. So I was wondering if each of you would just kind of give one thing that you'd like everyone to take away from today that we've talked about and that you've been sharing with us, Tiffany.
Oh gosh.
I put you on the spot.
I
You're
know
first.
this is where I know like
Everyone else is
Albert
sighing, going,
last name is not serving me well today. So first. The one thing I would ask everyone to carry from today is that there's a force within each of us. Each of us has a superpower. We may have to be intentional and spend some time with ourselves, to coin Yvette's phrase, to figure out what that is. But there's something in you. And there's someone watching you that's seeking exactly what you have to give. And so don't be afraid to give it. Don't feel like you have to have, this fancy title or whatever. There's something special about each and every person in this room. And I want you to take away that you can and should share that.
Thanks.
So women are the drivers of the world, and women are the ones who are going to get things done. So women and girls, find those young girls, encourage them to do everything and anything that they want, and really support other women. Rooms like this are absolutely incredible, and we need more spaces like this, because women are the ones who are going to change the trajectory and make this a better place across the board.
I would say audacity, having audacity. So I like to remind myself of something whenever I'm starting off doing something, which is make no small plans. Try to think really big, and for me and where I've been in my career, especially moving really quickly through a large company, it's been about really having audacity to say I belong here and I deserve that next level role because I'm going to work really hard. And I think sometimes it can be a little off-putting to some people if they think you're too ambitious. But I think really owning and having audacity to go after things that maybe people don't think you can do, that you will always surprise yourself. Even if you don't get to exactly where you thought you might, you're going to get much closer than you would have otherwise.
Mara, you get the last word.
I would say you don't need to wait till you've balanced everything or figured everything out or you're perfect. You are enough exactly at this moment in time.
That's right.
So take your greatness and share it with the world.
And be open. Be open to the people who are around you right now. We are really thankful for this room. I want to thank this amazing panel. Give it up. For sharing all of your gifts with us. And this was a masterclass in understanding how we can walk a road in a different way. I know you're going to take something from this today, share it with someone else, and carry this forward, because my goal is to not make International Women's Day like once a year. Like, why? Can't we have this a couple of times a year where we get together and we talk about the things that matter? So in that vein, get out your calendars, because next year, March 11th, 2027, we're going to be back here again, maybe not in this place, but the Detroit Regional Chamber thinks it's really important that we get together and have another event just like this one. So put it on your calendars. We hope to see you again. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and take care.